Hello everyone, today's actually my third and final day in my lore deck and my final thoughts about achieving all the lore decks. Which lore deck is the best one of them all? So far, bench, I'll go over the deck anyway, but I decided I might as well show this since I did it last video about my opponent's deck was completely. Okay, first off, the Mesa deck. They're mostly just a trap-based deck that relies on then targeting their distraction cards to actually do stuff. They have two side effects, one going opponent's side and one for yours. For example, can it hold up? But first off, let's start with all the traps since this is a trap festival after all. First off, we got Heavy Storm Duster, which is mostly stable between all decks in this whole fest. Imperm still being the main thing. Ice Dragon Prison is still a pretty good card, as we saw last video what it did. If we can actually pull it off. Finally, we got the Amazing Trap cards, which are bonkers, essentially. Amazing Family Faces. If opponent is equipped with Attractions Trap card, you can actually, while it's equipped in the monster, you get to control it. And you can manage it, but you can activate its effects. But it's also treated as an Amazement card, so it can also utilize its material. It's also a good way to actually stop everything wrong against everything, like an Eldlich match. For example, or against a Timelord deck that's annoying and you can go for OTK with the right amount of materials to go into C's. Synchro, or generally Links. Links mostly for the Zoner deck. Finally, we got the Mesa Trap cards. It targets one Amazing Monster Control or one Monster Control. First half is just like control it. You can target one spell trap card opponent's controls and send both it and discard the grave. A good removal essentially if you don't want to destroy, but also a good way to get around shards like Stardust the last episode, which would have been useful against it to get red step and Scarecrow so we can go for OTK earlier. Next, second effect. Add one Amazement card for your deck to your hand, and if you do, send this card to the grave. It basically is +1 or plus neutral, but you can also timing wise, apparently I actually found out, is that you can chain activating it to Amazement, so you can essentially do both. From there, we got next up, we got the Wonder Wheel, which allows us to same thing as normal, target one face of monster or one monster control. Target during the May phase, place one card from your hand to bottom deck, then draw one. Essentially, it's a good way to actually unbrick yourself, or you actually don't have the right tools to actually go for a game. It's a good card, but in most cases, secondary effects is the best one. Switch subsequent monsters, current attack and defense on the opponent's side. The secondary effect is useful a little bit here and there, but it's actually where everything goes bad. But you also some decks start to have high defense and low attack points in the case of something like, oh, I don't know, Jet of all things. Which is next up, we got the Majestic Merry-Go-Round. The equipped monster gains 500 if it's equipped to you. It can show a valid card effect, which is useful, by the way. But you can send this card grave instead. So essentially, you can time it wise to Stardust of all things, so you can proc that as well. Next, second effect, the opponent's equipped card loses strategy for subtraction card, which allows you to go for OTK, but you can also switch them around, as I'll show you later. Next up, we got Rapid Racing, which is probably the best one. Like, once per turn, you can target one card opponent's graveyard, change the equipped monster's battle mission, and if you do, shuffle the target deck, which makes it so that you can also get around effects like Eldlich, for example, with all their multi-Eldritch skills. But also all their or stuff that needs a specific monster grave like Jet needs Blue Eyes White Dragon. Or the second effect, which isn't really important in the first half, the equip monster level by 1. But if you do, it changes the battle position. Next up, we got the most powerful card, Amazement House. Target one monster, effect monster opponent controls, negates, and its effects until the end of the turn. Basically, it helps you get rid of, for example, Jet or anything else timing-wise so you can negate it. It will still allow them to actually tribute and stuff for effects or bash themselves for skills, but you don't have to deal with it proccing at all. Your opponent. It basically changes the equip monster defense down, which is alright, but essentially it goes vanilla there, but it's useful against secret decks. Next up, we got the Amazement, Attraction, Vacuum Vortex. Once per turn, when an opponent monster declares attack, negate attack. If you do, change the control of the equipped monster until the end of battle phase. It's useful, but if you need to take a direct attack, for example, in mind, you basically rather do it so you don't have to deal with it full blunt. Or it can just be weakling monsters, but you know. If the monsters activates effects, it returns it to hand. So essentially, timing-wise, I believe with stuff like shooting Crazor Dragon, it will allow it to balance itself, but it will turn back to the extra deck instead. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. Next up, we got the Amazement monsters. The first one, Buffalo. When it discards normal summon, you can target one interaction card in graveyard and one face monster controls. A character trapped to your opponent's monster. It's useful. It's useful in the sense that you can reposition itself, but also works with the main boss monster and the main deck. That's the main target essentially for the whole match. So you can change out most of the opponent's effects, then change it back up. Then next up we got the Permage's Damage Juggler. When the card's activated inflicts damage to you, you can discard card. If you do, destroy that card. It's pretty much not useful in that if you do like dealing with damage smell during the battle position, during the battle phase, you can discard card, reduce next battle damage you control to 0, which also makes use of the Viking essentially is for skill in mind. So you can go for low damage with slow strike in a turn. It's the best hand trap technically for a deck, I feel like, with all its tech cards in the trap cards. But you go to the bench card, add one performance panel during your deck to your hand, which is useful. Since there are performance panels, but one of them is actually niche enough that I'm actually about to say it. Flame Eater. During each player's turn, when a card effect is active like damage to you, you can activate this card. You can add special in for Western set performance monsters. Also, special summon this card from your hand. If you do, make the effect damage to you 0. If summoned this way, bash it when leaves field. It discards normal special. Each player takes 100. First off, I don't see this card ever going off. Essentially, it's just a brick card, but it's potential +1 personally. Next up, we got Hat Tracker. If there are 2 monsters on the field, you special this card. When the card effect was like damage to you, quick effect, you can place one first counter, make that effect damage to 0. It's not that useful personally, but if you get 3 counters in a way, it is useful. But you mostly will use it to go into your rank 4s more, or go into your links more easily, I feel like, for the deck. Next up, we got Orange Out Trick Clown, which allows you to target one orange monster in special events. You also take 1,000, but it's essentially every easy way to go into rank 4 as well, or link. Next up, we got the Amazement Monster, the main boss card of the whole archetype. That's the most useful. When this card is normal summoned, you can set one track trap directly from your deck. Quick effect, you can change one attraction trap cards to from one of your Amazement monsters to one face or one face on monster. Basically, it's able to work around it as well as utilize cards that are useful. For example, you can actually get a lot of your trapped cards back in place. It also mixes well with Buffalo there. So essentially, every single time you can realize all of your traps you need, as well as realize effects or cards that are association. Next up, we got Eldlich. You can reveal one traction card in your hand, special in this card, then you send one traction card from your hand, or face up field to the grave. Set one traction card correctly for your deck to your spell and trap card zone. It also works with the effects of Amazement in mind, with both of them in mind as well. You can essentially, if you had an opening hand, you can utilize it to actually put the trap card back to your opponents and manually switch it back up, except when Superintendent comes out. It's a good play. Next up, we got the main level 6, which I don't see a point of. That's technically the worst card of all the Pomerich Pals. It basically needs a monster to special one, so basically when I go first level being this, it can't be set or normal, so that's our special one, not much to go over it. During either player's turn, when a card effect is activated with like damage to your opponent, while you have a number of Pomerich monster in your grave, you can match the card from your opponent and deal 2,000 points of damage, which is useful. Next up, we got the utility cards in the deck. The most useful, the true boss monster. That's actually the most useful one. Once per turn, you can banish a number of attraction cards, then target anime cards your opponent controls and destroy them. It's an easy wipe. If you can't utilize anything to reset them, or set directly from your deck at this point, you can utilize Amazement in mind. But then, pretty much, you can only use each following effects once per turn. If a trap card is activated, except as exposed this card, if it's normal special summons a monster except during the damage step, you can target one of those monsters and control equip one attraction card from your deck to the target. It's useful in the sense that you're able to lock them out of effects and such as well, which is the most useful, but it won't work against stuff like Sword Soul Mind. But it's also useful in the whole trap format, essentially, the most. This niche deck can actually work well with that in mind. But also in sense removal, and also they had their own archings, which is not surprising to me at this point, for removal, and we got over the last 2 videos what it does. Next up, we got Pomerich Mirror Conductor. Personally, you can't pendulum out here. You can go for 4 to 6 to get all the punches you need. I realize now. But they only have like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, basically everything works out except for the level 7 there, main boss. But overall, outside that, it's not useful. Once per turn, during Eldlich per turn, you can target one monster your opponent controls. It's switch to turn attack and defense, then take 5 points damage. The attack lasts all turn. It's essentially Unreal's mind of attraction one reel with the secondary effect. But once per turn, you target one face up points monster, its attack defense becomes equal to its current attack or defense, whatever is lower until end turn. It's mostly useful for that. From that there, the extra deck, the Judgins. You should know them because of being XC0, I feel like. All the Judgins are useful in a sense. Like with one of them, you can detach in that DJ monster's turn attack is doubled, which is useful defense and it's useful attacking or trying to, get rid of 2 cards once. Next, only we got Persons. You target one face of monster controls, detach from us. That's what we do. Okay, essentially, Decision specifically allows us to get red past cards like, oh, I don't know, the Supreme King level 4. Since it's able to get past both of them at the same time, as well as get rid of materials which you desperately need to get rid of. And all James monster controls gain 500, which is pointless. Next up, this one does allows you to double attack, so essentially want all 3, but I don't see that happening most of the deck. Next up, Hammering the King Digin. When this card is special summon, target one Digin monster, special summon, then you attach 2 cards to your hand to seize materials. Once per turn, you can detach one skill. Next on link branch, I can attack it directly. Next up, perform attach Happy's Magician. You never take damage if this mount is less than or equal to its current attack. Once per turn, during either player's turn, either main phase 1, you can detach one material from this, then target one face up, attack position monster controls. It can make a second attack during its battle phase. Also destroy it at the end of the battle phase. It discards destroy a battle and set to grave, or is possessed destroy opponent's card effect, special summon performance burn your deck. Which is useful. I think it's pretty much the best thing, since you can place one trap, one face up card opponent controls on top of their grave, or just go for it easy way so you guys special summon. Personally, the trap card is mostly where it's at. Big Eye. You can detach one. I really don't see you much going to this. Like, the odds against you are low, I feel like, without search vision. Once per turn, you can detach one material from this guard, then target one monster opponent controls, take control of it until the end turn. Actually, wait. Never mind that part. Next up, Lucky Straight, which I personally think is the worst thing. Is all. Like, it's easy, it's decent, but the secondary effect is, like, really risky. Like, you send all the cards, opponents send all the cards to the grave. Suppose someone monster from your hand or from either graveyard, draw 3 cards and discard 2. That second card will be more useful or something else. Next up, number 74, Master Blades. When card is activated, target card. Detach one field, negate it if you destroy, then destroy one card field. Essentially, it's kind of the best levels, the rank 7 I feel like, first formats, with the lower decks I feel like. Since you're able to utilize it 2 times, you can negate the activation and also remove one more card from your opponent's deck. And next, finally, the rest of it is just a generic one you see, the whole Nightmare engine, alongside a Black Lesser Soldier Envy, Soldier Chaos, which I never went into once. I never saw the need, I felt like. It could have won me a couple of games, really, but I needed at least one level 7 at least, so I don't see how many. Next up, let's get on to the matches. You might have seen this already, but the whole deck is essentially just pure burn aspect. I am lucky I was able to actually win this whole match at all, I feel like. Mostly it's just burn. Minor stuff like add cards to hand, anti-spell, which I hate the most. Next up, a lot of utility in the whole trap card holes, negate stuff, banish it, deal damage, mostly just pure burn with stalling methods. Let's get on to the match. First off, the fact is I went first, so I'm glad. Since I'm able to just set one trap card, I was essentially going for removal alongside prevent being attacked and also preventing a negate. I was like, what the heck am I dealing with? Then I realized I was like, I am really lucky with my being hand. I essentially got that working out. Essentially, I went for another Amazement. Then Chain happened, and I was like, there goes my third copy. Next, I set one card. Then I was like, negate attack? Really? Then I got burned again. I was like, I'm dealing with a burn deck? I still gotta go time deep red door here. So I can paste the burn. And also get rid of some cards from my opponent's great extra deck. I thought pretty much I forgot that it's able to do all 3. Then I realized I also got top in burn. Solemn Strike. Essentially, opponents essentially had everything planned. All I need is one more monster. That's all I needed this whole match. Essentially, my opponent can do anything. I was like, Magic Cylinder. Wait, they sent one for deck, so they can't activate it. But they missed timing, so I decided to train everything since I was thinking I was gonna die either way. And that was game. I was lucky I won as fast as I did, fast-paced wise. Next up, next deck. We're essentially playing against Timelords, which are the annoying archetype in them all. With some utility in a sense removal, ring destruction, sticker barrel, sticker blast, trap monsters, trap hole, anti-machine just to mostly filter the hand, infinite machine, and infinite light, and essentially anything that can actually utilize that goes into it fast. Nothing unusual here. Oh, so sorry about that. I was whining and I also scratching my nose. I feel like every single match you open with Amazement, it's useful. At this point, I had everything else I needed, and I essentially decided to go for full board nuclear. And essentially, as soon as I saw Timelord, I activated it, mostly negate its effect. Target 1 point, destroy, and I was right, but it was being turned. Essentially, as soon as I did that, my opponent realized I was gonna win either way here. Since I can negate every single thing to do for the rest of this duel, which is useful unless they get a heavy storm, which I'm pretty sure they don't. Hold on, let's take a look. Let's see, I see 0 form or removal. Oh, they also turned Eldlich. I just realized that now. Next up, and also Lord of Heavenly Prison as you are version of it. Overall, there was no removal. They can't do anything here. That was their end goal. They essentially lost because of it. Last duel. It's a loss, sadly, but I'm okay with it. Let's see, it was in side frames. Side frames with Zoodiacs. With some Kaijus and Eldlich. But mostly just the Zoodiacs being the main backup plan in the deck. And next up, some Tri Brigade mostly utilize some stuff. As soon as I saw Eldlich, I was already just pissed when I saw it. Essentially, my hand was pretty bad, I figured, but I had Imperm to work with. I can send one card. I decided to send that. I have everything else I need. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, Imperm here. But I should have just activated my negate, I think, if I had one on. Nope. Oh wait, I do have negate. I should have just activated my magic horror. Essentially, I decided to change it to mine, so I have removal. I activated too early. I should have waited up until my opponent actually battled here. Elixir happened, and I already knew I was going to destroy it, so I decided to destroy here. So I have some removal. All I need is one more monster, but I was like, I don't have a chance. As soon as I saw this, I was like, trap monster alert. I should have linked, I feel like at one point. If I had all the monsters I needed, I probably could. I decided to destroy them, but this is what would have cost me the match either way next turn, I felt like. Since I was doing Eldlich, I was really betting on the fact that I didn't have a side frame in hand. Because I could destroy it and then I can easily go for game. I had one more turn to work with, but I had... What did I do again, Crypt? Actually, I still have Ice Prison, I just realized. Had the Ice Prison. I forgot I had Ice Dragon's Prisons, which I didn't realize at the time. Followed up by setting out my Amazement, which would switch attack positions. Then I also had one that allows me to change the battle position so I can actually stall at least. So this would have been the most useful thing I actually had. So utility-wise, I had everything though, but it could have gone for game either way from there on out. Overall, my final thoughts: the best decks between all the loner decks is pretty much. Sorry about that. I'm just picking my cards. Sorry, on the floor. Are pretty much being top tier. Probably Dynamorpher because it's the most easiest consistent deck with a second win con. Second best, easily Amazement because of all the utilities most of the drops give you for this little festival. Finally, last place is probably just Power Zone every single damn time, I'll be honest. I feel like it could be potential second best, though, but Dinos are the best thing because it has all sorts of removal, which is useful. And that's my final thoughts. Have a good day, wherever you are, night or day.